everybody. Welcome to the Hustlin' Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker.
And we are back together in the same room.
We are.
It's a big deal because today is episode 90.
90.
Of the Hustling Sideways podcast. We don't make the age jokes anymore because we are legally dead at this point.
Yeah, we don't exist anymore. We're excited. We're obviously 10 away from a
big old
monumental,
century
but
mark.
90 is a big deal. And we're actually coming to you on what is like a wildly beautiful day in mid-October in Milwaukee.
I can't pull the shade up because if I do, this camera is going to get all funky.
To hell with the camera.
Okay, well, fine.
Yeah.
But
it's great. It's been a great day, great fall. And no, we're excited because a lot's happened in the last couple months.
It's taken a while for us to get from 80 to 90, I think.
I
but
think it has.
For good reason. There's been a lot of
good stuff.
Things going on.
Mm-hmm. I think the big thing is we've had, like, I'd say the last 5-6 episodes has been from the 707 Hub, which has been awesome. And a lot of students that were a combo. So if for those listening, we were able to host the Brute Ideas Challenge back in April, which is essentially a Shark Tank event for students at Marquette's campus. And it was a lot of fun, just like a fun night. And there were 20-ish. 20 pitches. 20 pitches. 10 of them were social impact. 10 of them were business impact.
Yep.
And honestly, we walked away like, holy shit. Like,
we know so many of these people. Yeah.
They're really cool. And then we had an idea of like, they should be on the show. And we interviewed or reached out to a lot, and a lot of them responded and interviewed. And what was interesting, it was a combo, a couple of things. Like either they're full throttle, like game on into it. Here's what's going to happen.
Yep.
They did the pitch and they're like, oh man, I'm not really sure.
Work.
Got a lot going on. Or they're totally focused on something else. And we didn't know that going in, so it was kind of funny. There was like a couple interviews where we also what's the story?
We also totally did not do our research as if they were following up and keep going.
Have we ever done our research?
No, we are very anti-research.
Yes,
over here.
We're not. We stay out of school. No research. No facts.
Stay out of school unless you're going to Marquette.
And then
in which case, come see us at Marquette.
That's right. So it was really fascinating to hear that. But I think like a big takeaway of mine is that like these students today are so gifted and like have this outlet now to go and present these ideas and then get real feedback. It's one thing to like say like I have this business idea and everyone's like, that's great, like we're so happy for you. This is like, what are you gonna do about it? What are the financials? It's like Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank coming in, and which is I would say is Omar for that situation.
Yeah, from Third Street Market.
Great dude. But it was really cool and fascinating to hear that, and then to have them like come in and get, what was it, like then 5 months later of what was happening, where they were at, and some of them were like duos. There was a husband and wife. There was two good friends. So I thought that was really unique and fascinating to hear that. And for the ones that weren't afraid to be like, that was kind of a cool experience for me, but I'm no longer doing it.
Right.
And that's where it's at.
Yeah, I think honestly, so my takeaway from that too was that like there are so many kids now that are so much further advanced in entrepreneurship than I would have been at that time. Like, because I was in their shoes at one point, right? Like, I started breaking and entering when I just graduated college, so like I was like, okay, here's like, the website breaking and entering too, not actually breaking.
Alan's been a criminal since 2014, so there you go.
Arguably,
maybe 2007.
But yeah, my takeaway was that like these kids are just so much further advanced than we would have been at our age if we had the exact same resources. Dude, and whatever.
I was a shithead. I mean, like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't even have thought about like doing a business like at all.
I had 3 different business ideas and I did one of them, and like this one kind of only worked, and I had no idea how to make money with it. But these kids are like, this is what we will do. This is how we will monetize it. This is how we will, and it all sounds like it's gonna work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And the cool part is like a lot of them, what they took away from it was this experience of having done the whole plan, having presented said plan to people who were asking legitimate questions.
Right.
It was terrifying. It was fascinating. Like it was a big learning experience for them, and I could see it like when they would come in and be like, like I never thought I would get up and actually like have a presentation. I do, and the prep it took to get there. And what I found was that like a lot of them practiced so much. They were like, I've done it everywhere. I've done it in front of a brick wall, in front of my friends. Like I felt ready, but I still wasn't like. Anything that could have happened that day was different, and in front of a big group of people they'd never met before. So
it was nice to have them on to in a no pressure environment with us.
Yeah.
As opposed to the first time that we met them all was in a 10-minute pressure cooker where basically they had 10 minutes to give their speech or 5 minutes to give their speech, and then they got questions. They got grilled from everybody.
Oh, the whole time. Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, it was wild.
So very cool to have the the 707 Hub students involved, and honestly, like, it helps, build up this show too, and like, we love that partnership that we have with them. We're back there this semester already. We started doing them.
In another week, we'll be back there again.
We are back there. Actually, I think what is this, next week from when we record this? So
it should be. Yeah.
So this Thursday, come see us at the 707 Hub.
See you there. Yeah, it'll be awesome.
We will be there.
And it's gotten an audience, which is cool.
Yes, there are people there to see us now.
Exactly.
Which before seemed like a really bonkers idea.
Now, let's be honest. There's free pizza. And
free pizza helps.
That's a big deal.
And I enjoy the free pizza.
And I do every time. It's from Ian's, which I did say the last time I was there. Ian's Pizza is the monumental 2 a.m. Pizza slice in Milwaukee. Yeah. I had never had Ian's prior to like 10 p.m. in my life. And I was it's 5 on a Tuesday. Should I be having Ian's right now?
Yeah.
It really threw me off. But it is good still.
Yeah.
Which is good. That's
statistically, you should be in bed in 15 minutes from the moment you eat that pizza.
Or like Law and Order SVU should be on. I should be like craving that. Yeah, it's good. I had a whole nighttime routine after Barclays. It was fantastic.
So we normally do a check-in where we go and we break down like the different episodes and who we've had on for our guests, but that kind of just did it right there.
Yeah,
right?
that was it. Yeah.
I think we're going to take today and we're going to kind of address though, like, state of our side hustles is probably a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Where things have been at. Jim, of course, as a speaker, me running, breaking, and entering.
Oh, I thought it was the burglary thing. You're back to music writing.
Yeah, okay. I'm still music writing.
Didn't realize you switched that up. Okay, thought you were a criminal.
That's what we're telling them legally. We're writing about music.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Yes. So yeah, like I am curious because we have both been busy all summer.
Yeah.
So the one theme for both of us is maybe that summer and this time of year where it's early school year for you.
Cray. Yeah.
It's so hard for us to book shows because, and not like concerts, like it's so hard for us to book podcasts because you're gone for a week somewhere.
Dude, yeah, it's like,
or wild. I'm crazy busy with some event somewhere.
Well, our text is like, well, I'm gone from the 21st to the 28th. And I'm gone from the 29th to the 1st. It's like, see you next month, I guess.
Yeah, like, exactly. It's like, well, we have this, or we have like a 4-day window where we're like, we got to get a couple episodes.
Which is when it's a Friday afternoon and we're like, we're both here in Milwaukee in a weekend. So cheers to that.
Cheers to that. I literally booked a round of golf last week with my friend that took a month to book. Like, it was a month ahead of time because both of our schedules were so crazy.
It's adult friendships. That's like how it goes.
Where we had to like put it on our Google Calendar to be like nothing that day.
This is on there right now.
Golf.
It's like a save the date. Like you got to send it out 6 months prior, and and then maybe you still can't go.
Yeah. So thankfully, I'm at that point now where I don't have events
as much. Yes,
until the end of the year now. But
so I'll give a little bit what's going on with me.
Yeah.
And actually, this is going to be a little bit kind of a different take because usually I'm like, it's great, and like here we are. I got a kind of an interesting story with some lessons learned.
We got deep gym love.
Yeah,
today.
Some deep gym talk. Anyway, fasten your seatbelts, folks. So this started. The genesis of this was back in July of last year. So July 2023. I got connected on social media with an organization that does speaking full time.
Okay.
And I'm not going to start name dropping them. They're a great company, and right away I spoke to the owner of them. Just super aligned, like value wise, really good guy. He lives in Minnesota.
Sure.
His company was starting to grow and adding speakers to their list, and so the genesis was like they were looking for part-time folks, and I'm like, well, why don't I reach out and just like see, like I'm not going to work part-time for them, but like what do they have going on? And we talked probably 3 times to start off, a lot about like my background, what I do, the what I try and make happen in schools and conferences. They do very much the same thing. They just they have clients all over the place. And so we talked, probably for 4 more times after that. And then we got to like, what if we did a contract? Like, what if we worked on like putting together a contract of I did this many gigs a year for them, et cetera, and actually got it drafted like this probably August of last year. And then that contract, I was like, they put a number. They were like 20 gigs a year, and I was like, I can't do that.
Sounds like a lot.
Not going to happen. So we went back and forth, and then we realized that like the contract maybe isn't the best way to do this. Let's just do it where I get a text when there's an opportunity to do a gig, and if I can make it, I go do that gig. I'm like, that sounds much more reasonable.
Yeah.
So the first time I had a chance to do that was back in April of I guess that'd be April of this year. So this took a little while, right, to kind of get going. And then, because then there's the speaking off season, like, right, they got like to winter and it was just done. And then we get into spring, which is when this was. So, so spring is like, it kind of goes like the fall and spring are like two, because that's when students are in session.
Sure.
So I went out to the Dells back in April and did this gig on behalf of this organization. And it was awesome. It was like the Wisconsin FCCLA, great organization, just run by really wonderful people. I had a blast. I had so much fun. I was there for a night and a day. And I got back, I'm like, okay, that was a lot of fun. So then we went back to like, maybe we should do this, and actually look at the contract thing again. Yeah. Let's see what happens. So we looked on the contract again, which didn't have a number of gigs set up. It didn't have like a penalty if I couldn't do something. It was more like first right of refusal. I had a couple opportunities for me to like make videos, like those types of things. So I was like, okay, let's see what happens. So we got to a couple months ago where we were talking again. This probably got to like the beginning of summer. Where I was like, okay, guys, and actually, I should preface this by saying this was like right after I got back from the Wisconsin leadership seminars. Right. And I was high on life. Like, I really, that
is kind of like your Super Bowl. It's where you really got your start.
And I came back and I was like, I want to do that so much more often. And it was like something like, I was like giddy, like Game On. And for those that don't know, that's the one where I do like an opening, a closing. It's the best students in Wisconsin. I have a blast.
It's a big gym love weekend.
It's my weekend, right? It's kind of my ego boosting weekend, if you will. I have a ball. I love it. I love every minute of it. And I've been doing it for 18 years. So I spoke to them when I got back, and I was like, we got to do something like more specific. So that conversation led to, okay, like maybe we look at actually drafting up something else. And by the way, October we have 4 gigs. Like, do you want to do these? Yeah. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do these. So I booked 4 gigs in October, and as we're sitting here, it's October, right? Yeah. And so I was like, okay, so 2 of them were Minnesota, one of them was Iowa, and then one was oh gosh, where was the 4th one? I think it was here in Wisconsin. If I'm not mistaken.
So still like the goal of like getting out further states.
And as you may remember, Alan, my goal was always to get on a plane and go fly somewhere and do this. Like I've been wanting to do that for, I would say, 5 years, and just never, this
materialized. Yeah.
So the first one was I did out in Minnesota, right? I went like early October, went really well. Like had a good time. It was a long day. They kind of contract you for like a full day, and it was awesome. And I had a blast. So I got back. The thing as this is going on, my work world is like blowing up in a good way. Like
just lots of
our
business,
clients are doing great. We have great people, great organization. So they want us to present a lot. And my schedule is one where like when that happens, like I have to go do that.
You have to be the presenter for it.
Dates came in and they were starting to conflict with what I had done, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't
you have to back out of the gigs.
So twice in a row I had to back out of a gig, and it became my fault, like messy.
2 out of 4,
that's not good. And I was, to be honest, I was really embarrassed, and like they had, on behalf of this organization, they had booked these gigs for me. How bad did that look for that organization, where they're like, oh wait, never mind, our speaker's not available. So right off the bat, I was waking up like as this was going on, because I was booking gigs, and I was waking up with like a knot in my stomach of like, what happens if I have to cancel? And I'm like, I can't live like this. Like this is supposed to be fun for me. This is supposed to be a great time. I'm supposed to love doing this. So it became pretty clear that like either something had to give, or we go back to doing like the text if I'm available. But then it happened a 3rd time, right, to cancel a gig, and this was about a week ago. Oh god. And I was like, guys, I was like borderline emotional. I was like, I feel so bad calling you and telling you this. Yeah. There's just no way that we can do it. And I think rightfully so, some anger on the other side, right? Like, how could you do that and commit to something? And they're right. Like that was a mistake. So
it just didn't align.
It didn't align. So ultimately I'm no longer working with that organization, which is the right call for both of us. And what it came down to is accountability on my end. I was like, I can't pretend like I'm free enough to go do this. Sure. And it was almost like this come to Jesus moment of like, I have to go back to what I was doing. Like specifically what they're doing is amazing, but I can't work that way.
So when you book dates, do you book them knowing like, okay, Fridays are usually lighter work days for you?
That's totally
there
what
are
I do.
Days that you could take off or whatever.
And times of the year. So, for example, December, usually pretty slow in my world.
Sure.
Same with like June. You know,
Yeah.
like I know there's not a whole lot of speaking going on then, but like Fridays usually pretty slow, Mondays usually pretty slow. So I can both of those days work the middle of the week, and then multiple days is where it gets really tough for me to get out for that long. That's not to say I can't go on vacation. Like I do those, I take a week off and go. But like this was different, like because it was right in the prime time of things, and I was like, oh my gosh, a client just said they want us to come on this day. I can no longer go speak. That doesn't look good. So it was interesting because I've never had that in my 10 years of doing speaking. I've never had to cancel a gig because of a schedule thing 3 times in a row. It happened for this, which was like alarming. So it was a really good takeaway that I had to kind of come back to. I don't have to be everywhere all the time, and it's okay to do my thing still. My ultimate goal with this was to have something new, get on a plane, go do it somewhere, like have this new experience. And I did 3 gigs, you know, all together. 2 of them were in Minnesota. They went really well. It was a great time, great organization, etc.
You got a taste of it though.
Yes, I got a taste of it, and I was like, that was a lot of fun, but I have to be real about where my priorities are.
Sure.
And like this is still a vocation. It's something I do, but it is a side hustle.
It's a side hustle.
And it's going to be that way. Yeah. So that was something that like this, I would say, as we're recording tonight, up until yesterday, when this relationship finally kind of came to a halt, which is the right call for both of us. And again, I couldn't speak higher about the organization I was working with. It just great people, still are going to be a mentor of mine for a while. Yeah. But it was like, okay, maybe it's okay to step back and do my own thing. So now I'm going back to just being Jim. And this is what I do, and this is what I'm going to circle for. And for the record, I have 3 more gigs before this year is over, which I'm really excited about. One of the gigs is with the guest that we've had here before, Kyle Wilcombe.
Oh, there you go.
I'm really excited about. So I'll be working with him in about a month in Wisconsin. But that was a really big deal. I mean, I would say the last 3 weeks I've been super stressed about it. Like, what happens? Like, I'm walking on eggshells. Like, what happens if a client comes to me and says that they need this, and I have a speaking gig? Like, it was like this cognitive dissonance in my head of like, please don't ask me for a presentation, please don't ask me. And then they ask and it blows everything up, and I'm like, I can't have them live like that. I can't make these schools.
Yeah, you pride yourself on reliability and being accountable.
So I think a takeaway for me was like, I don't have to be that busy all the time. Like I can still keep this as a side hustle, and I have to be accountable for my schedule.
Sure.
I can't just commit to this stuff. I got trigger happy, man. I remember the day of those gigs came in, I was like, yeah, let's go. Yeah. I was pumped. Right. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, back to earth. So like, there's a lot to unpack there, but that's, if you know, so being honest, this is where I was at. It was a bad experience. It was a tough one, but I learned a lot. And now moving forward, I know really where I should put my time in. Sure. I know kind of where, you know, my schedule is best aligned with my schedule. Yeah. Right, of where I know I'm going to be, the people I've worked with in the past. And sure, it may blow up again, but I know where I need to go. So,
yeah, you've got your plans. You've got your you can stick to it. And
yeah,
like
yeah.
You said, you've had a taste of what it would be like doing this
on a different side. Yes. Yeah. And I know that, you know, maybe someday they'll work out, but right now where my career is, my priorities are, it won't. And you know, I was leaving for a couple of days at a time, and it was just it was a lot. So what I do want to do though, in terms of like a brighter note, is I'm thinking about getting into more coaching.
Oh, there you go.
And coaching speakers.
Sure.
You know, we had Jason on the show, and I did a lot with him.
I was going to say, we did an episode of his podcast. And we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. And I love that. I love doing it, and I think I'm good at it. And I would love, so if you're listening to the show and you want to be a speaker, I have services for you.
There we go.
Love to work with you.
Make him booked and busy. There we go.
Boom.
I will say we did an episode of Jason Smith's podcast. It hasn't come out yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
And that was kind of really cool for me because, one, we had never been guests on something together.
Not at the same time.
Like, as the two of us, really.
Yeah, you are someone I've never spoken with on another podcast. That's true. Really, we are not together. Yeah,
we had never been guests together. So that was cool to talk about and talk about our stories. But then really to kind of look back, even though we do these check-ins, like to tell the complete stranger, you know what I mean? Like his audience probably is not our audience.
No, I think it was, which was awesome. Like it was so different.
And tell them about what we've done and where we've been, and really kind of look back on how this thing has grown into what we've made it. So that was really cool. And that kind of lit a fire under me too, to be like, we are going to be out here again. Because like also with summer getting busy, summer is my busy time.
That's your prime time.
That's when like maybe the content falls off a little bit because I have to be somewhere, you know,
all good.
Monday through Friday night for something, you know, like there were literally weeks this summer, where like my wife had something going on. I had something going on, or some combination of both for like every night of the week. Like we try to save like Friday nights, so it's like we're gonna go to dinner.
Yeah,
because we know because even like the weekends would be like,
There's
oh well,
still
this
so
concert
much.
is happening, or
Yeah.
this event is happening, or whatever, like something
Yeah.
I got to be at, right?
Yeah.
So we had that. So this was honestly probably one of the busiest summers I think I've had, like
Yeah.
maybe ever.
Was it fun or was it too busy?
It was fun. Like I
Yeah.
got to do a lot of really amazing things, but it got to a point where it was like, oh my god, I have no free weekend to like sit and watch football.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
at that
Whatever
point,
you
like
wanna
watch
do.
the Premier
Yeah,
League or
yeah.
whatever I
Exactly.
was gonna do. Right. Like I said, I had to cancel or schedule a golf round a month in advance, which usually never happens.
Right.
So what had happened really is like a lot had changed this year with both breaking and entering and with my day job. So I write for On Milwaukee. So we had a little bit of organizational change. One of our writers left. So I absorbed some of his writing
Took
work.
on a lot of that work. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was keeping me pretty busy. And then one of the main contributors for breaking and entering also took a different full-time job. So he had to leave too. So then I was kind of like, well, it's me, right? You know what I mean? It's me as breaking and entering, which it honestly has not been for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was like a real kind of eye-opening moment of like, okay, what do I do? Like I have because I always kind of like would force out a couple articles because I felt responsible to somebody I was writing with me to be like, well, okay, I don't want him to pull all the slack. I don't want Ben to pull all the slack.
How was that? Like, did those feel natural to write then when you were like forcing them out?
Well, I was forcing them out.
Yeah.
No, they all felt formulaic. It all
Yeah.
felt like I was just trying to get some shit out there.
So you weren't staying true, do you feel like, to your brand? And,
No. I mean, it was not at the level of enthusiasm. Like I could even, as I'm writing them, I felt like I was like, I've written 4 articles that sound like this. You know what I mean? Like it just didn't feel like my heart was in it. And we just did a bonus on how do you know like when you've got too much on your plate.
Yeah.
When I would do those and just have to turn them out and just be like, all right, we got to get something.
That's a really
out there.
good telltale sign for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So that was in it. So that was part of it. So Ben had to leave because he was taking on a full-time job, which I totally respect. Like you're getting paid more to go do better work elsewhere.
Cool. Go for it. Yep.
And then my job was also very busy, but also like On Milwaukee has a much higher readership than Breaking and Entering does.
Sure.
So I was kind of like, I can do everything, and they are very cool with me writing about music. Like they are into it. Like you know what I mean. I've established myself there as like the music guy.
That's your thing. Yeah. It's an important thing to do.
So I was so part of me was like, okay, I can get all the same access to things that I used to have to try and work hard for. I can get it a little easier here. It's going to be seen by more people.
Yeah.
Right. So I was kind of like, what if I have nobody else to really like be accountable for on this thing? I was like, what if I just maybe call it a day on Breaking and Entering, right? Like, because it was becoming tedious, right? It was becoming a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I legitimately had a couple weeks where I was like, you know, I don't know what I really want to do with it going forward.
For sure.
I was like, for sure, I want to keep our beat battle going because that was like always successful every year, always financially successful every year.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, but I'm like really stressing myself out and straining to write.
That's a lot.
So what I ended up doing is I opted to I took the better part of 2 weeks where I just wrote nothing for Breaking and Entering.
Yeah.
I just let the content kind of fall off. I maybe did like the bare minimum of stuff of like, you know, I had like a video that somebody put out that was like a close friend that I was like, well, it's going to take nothing to write this up, right?
Yeah.
Or like our weekly playlist. I was like, let me just do the playlist. It's already, AI already builds the like auto draft of it. I just have to type it out and post it, right?
That's it. Yeah.
But I took those 2 weeks for me and I was kind of like, okay, nobody seems to really notice if it's gone. You know what I mean? I don't know if people could pick up for those couple weeks that it was even gone, but I definitely hit that point where I was like, do I still want to keep going with this thing? Like, and like deep in my gut, I was like, this website still serves a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like it still covers the Milwaukee music scene in a way that I probably never could over at On Milwaukee, just because the level of content, maybe the subject matter of some of the videos that we're posting or the bands that we were posting might not be as advertiser friendly as like an On Milwaukee would be, right?
Which is the beauty of it, in my opinion.
Yeah. It was like there was a rawness to it that I was like, and like it was still like music that was maybe not as professional, but it was still getting that music out to the world.
Yeah,
so I was still very much like like deep down in my gut, I was like, how do I keep this going? And ultimately, like, so my word of the year is refine, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, this is my moment. I got to refine it. I got to bring it down to what I think is doable for me.
Yep.
For just me.
Yep.
So I really sat on that and I thought on that for a while. Like,
Yeah.
how do I do that? If that means posting less during the week, if that means doing whatever, finding new tools to do stuff. And that's what I ended up doing is like, I figured out like, okay, I want to write the things that I'm actually most passionate about, right? Like I will still cover, the stuff that we were covering before, maybe not as much pressure to be like, I need 7 things a day or 5 things a day or whatever to turn out. But I will still write about that stuff that I like doing. It didn't help that I was also like working on a block party for the first time this year in September, which normally we do a concert series.
Yeah.
This was like a 1-day, like much bigger production scale of like, we have vendors, we have streets to block off, we have all this other stuff to go on.
Yeah.
And we have like, and it was a big gamble that like, if it rains, we're kind of screwed, so it didn't help that I had the stress of that beating down on me, and I was kind of like, okay, I got to get through this point. So for me, it was Riot Fest in Chicago, where I was like, I got to get through Riot Fest.
Yeah.
Because that was like the last thing. I had the block party one Saturday.
Yeah.
And then the next weekend after that was Riot Fest.
And this was what, July or August?
This is like September, October.
September. Okay.
This is like real recent.
Yeah. Got it. Yep.
Last weekend in September was the block party. The week before that was Riot Fest in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then the week after that was an event for On Milwaukee.
Got it.
So once I got done with those 3 things, I was like, okay, there's really nothing on the schedule. Like, reevaluate. What am I going to do? And then the block party happened, and it went great. And it was like the perfect day.
Yeah.
Like, weather was great. Bands were great. We had a good crowd for a first year.
Yeah.
Financially, it was covered. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have anything to worry about. We're already set for that we can start working about next year kind of thing. And that lit the fire under me. Because then I was like, oh, like, you really like when it goes well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that next day, I was like, oh my God.
Enjoy this. Yeah, that's great.
So what I kind of ended up doing now is I think, like content's going to come back on Breaking and Entering, and it's already back. It's not going to be as frequent as it was. And, like, some days there are going to be just days that it doesn't happen. And I got to be cool with that. And then I have to remember, too, like, I don't have a ton of advertisers that are, like, have to be appeased to and sell 1 million ad impressions to.
Totally.
I don't have any bosses at Breaking and Entering. I have myself.
That's a good feeling.
If I take the day off, nobody's going to be mad that I took the day off. Right?
Yeah.
Which is something that anybody with a side hustle really should know, is that if you take your day off, 1 day off, here and there, you are your own boss.
That's you.
You know what I mean? Like, if you take a Friday where you could have taken a gig and you didn't do it,
I'm going to be okay.
You're going to be fine.
And
you're going to go back to another gig.
Yes, I have said no.
Yeah. So, like, so ultimately, and like, I think the other part of it too is like, because I have not done this as just myself in a very long time, I was like, well, let's see. What does it kind of look like when the rules are all the way out the window, even the ones you set for yourself? So I'm revamping kind of like what some stuff's going to look like for next year.
And will continue to just be you?
Maybe, kind of, sort of, maybe not.
Okay, that was a wild answer.
Yeah. I haven't fully decided. There are some people I'd like to bring somebody on to help do some events with me.
Yeah.
And actually, because when the block party went really well, I have a calendar now in my phone of like 6 club shows that I want to do.
Awesome.
Which I hadn't done club shows in a while.
Yeah. Okay.
Other than like the beat battle. And I was like, nope, I want to do these places. I want to do a refined version of them. I want to do them at venues that I like to work with, or like to go see shows at. I was like, I want to do those. Keep the beat battle going, because that formula for that hasn't changed.
Yeah,
it's been great.
It works for you. Yeah.
So like the fire is definitely relighting again.
That's good.
Honestly, like part of it was like I was getting sick of going to shows and going to mediocre shows or going to whatever, like
it's a lot.
Going to shows that I was throwing that weren't doing well. So I was like, well, how do I relight the fire of like liking music again? And part of it was to just like surround myself by it.
That's it. Yeah.
And be like, okay, I need to go. Like I started booking things for On Milwaukee where I was going to do show reviews, and going to festivals and going to concerts, even when I didn't really want to go sometimes, because I was just like, that feeling of being in it and being in the crowd, that's the thing that fires you up. So you need to do it.
That's such a big deal. And I will say, like in the live case study right here of how you actually went back to the word refine. Yeah. And that made a difference. That's the whole point of one word, is to always come back to what you need to do. And I mean, I didn't pay you to say that. It's important. And that did that really help you to stay grounded in what you're trying to do?
Yeah, absolutely. No, back? It was very much like taking a step back and looking at the whole situation. Because honestly, if I quit breaking and entering tomorrow and just kept going, like working for On Milwaukee, I would have the access to the same amount of concerts. I would still probably be able to go to Lollapalooza in Chicago.
Right.
I'd still be able to go to Riot Fest in Chicago like I did this year. And this year was like the first year I've actually got official press credentials for Riot Fest.
Yeah,
so like that was like a step forward.
That's huge. Yep.
You know, like I was like, oh man, like I could probably do all this elsewhere.
Right.
But then I also too looked at like the situation of, so the person that left for On Milwaukee is really a good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, why should I give up on my thing because he left?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why should I?
It's got no bearing on you at all.
Right. Yeah. Why should that affect me to the point that I should be like, nope, hard stop on my thing because I need to focus. I do definitely need to focus more attention on on my job, but at the same time, but at the same time, I'm like, I can find my places to kind of pick and choose my battles. That I'm like, well, these are the things that are best suited here. And I have an outlet for that now.
Yeah.
So it's gonna feel a little more personal, I think, for me, honestly now, which
you
is
feel like
harder to do.
You've got a plan moving forward, then.
Yeah,
what's
at least a tentative plan for next year and things I want to do and things I'm excited for. So
that's awesome.
And I mean, I'm sure you probably had that too with you know, getting a taste of the full time or getting a taste of what it would be like.
Yeah.
And now like, it's going to make your next gigs that you do by yourself special.
I totally agree.
You know what I mean?
And
like
that's the 3 I have left. And you know, 2 of the 3 I have left are with it's schools where students from Wills went back to their school and said that they want to bring
that's
guy
awesome.
there, which is the best.
Yeah.
You walk in, you know a student, they tell the whole school you're cool and they're lying and you know the whole thing. It's great. And that's the joy I get out of it. You know, it's like when I connected with a student enough where they're like, we want to bring you over here, and then the principal listened and they're like, yeah, we will. So I agree. I think it'll really bring me back to why I loved it, and to not the biggest thing it took away, and I think you would vibe with this. It was like it was making it stressful, and I was like, the whole point of this is I love it, and like I have fun, and like to go and do the thing that I really like doing and am good at doing, and when it started to not be that, both parties were like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
You know, when I was like waking up anxious about speaking. Yeah, that's not it. Like that can't be.
Yeah,
I'm anxious about everything else, not that. That's
yeah. I would have nights where I would be tired from a concert or an On Milwaukee event the night before, and then wake up early and be like, I have to put out content for Breaking and Entering today. Like I have to put out a couple things, and like forcing myself to do it. Where I was at the point where I was like, I'm forcing myself to be tired and feel like shit the next day.
When it becomes a chore is when
it felt like my own business was a chore.
Right. And that's what, and it became, for me, it became like, I really hope that like I don't get another gig, you know, like it's going to run into a schedule, and it was so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that was a good sign to
let you
down
know kind of
stop.
what you
where you got to go. Now, if one day I decide to totally go full throttle doing this, sure, that'll be different. But that's not the day, you know. And and now I'm kind of, I feel more comfortable where I'm at, and my schedule has kind of come back to earth. I would call it, where I'm not leaving all the time. I'll always be traveling and do my stuff. But
you think we figured out how to be a little easier on ourselves?
I think
from these last couple of months, both of us.
Yeah, we didn't expect to like both have stories that were like, you know, not negative in nature, but like learning lessons.
We were both going through it. Yeah, in these last few
no doubt. I think it's important because then you always know you come back on the other side of it too. Right. Like I was freaking out 3 weeks ago. Like, oh my gosh. And then now I realize like I had to just move on from what that was, and it was good. It was really good to have that experience. I'm grateful for it. I think we both now are mature enough though to reflect on it that way. Whereas like maybe 10 years ago I'd be like, everything is awful, and now I'm like, this is good.
I was totally like, how am I gonna throw away like 10 years of work for this, you know? Because I had a particularly busy couple of months, right? Like,
and this would have been your April Fool's Day joke, like all.
I know, yeah. So for those that don't know, I really did put on April 1st this year when things were a little more chill in life. That I was like, yep, after 10 years, I'm gonna be done with Breaking and Entering. I'm gonna move on. And
he totally got me.
Yeah, and I got a bunch of people that thought it was real.
I was like at dinner with my in-laws, and I announced it. I was like, because they all know who you are.
Yeah,
you know, they listen to the show, and I was like, guys, like everyone's quitting.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on? I was freaking out. Yeah.
And then I did actually think about that too at one point where I was like, well, if I do leave,
the joke into existence.
like, is my post gonna be like, is the post to announce that going to be like, well, guess it wasn't an April Fool's joke, guys.
The boy who did cry, breaking and entering.
Yeah, I was.
That's it.
I was there. I was at the brink for a little bit, but
and it's okay. I think a really good takeaway from both of these things is it's okay to have, I'm going to call them low points in what you're doing, because you will always bounce back and you're going to learn something from it. Alan and I both have pretty similar takeaways on what we went through, and we come back to earth of why we're doing it, and to not make the thing that you're really passionate about be a source of stress for what you're doing. That's really critical. And
that's not why you got into that side hustle.
Yeah,
right?
You're supposed to enjoy it. It should be fun. When it wasn't becoming fun anymore, that's why I was like, okay, this got changed. Now, let me preface this by saying, when I did go and speak, of course I was having fun. I was having a blast.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Getting there, though, and scheduling it was so stressful, and I'm like, can't do it. Got to step away.
When you're in it, it's great. I said, like when we had the block party and the show went great, I was riding high, and right after that, I was like, okay, I want to book 6 shows for this next year, right?
Yeah.
I do still feel really optimistic about next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think, honestly, not to get political, but election years always stress me out for whatever reason, because just the amount of negative things that hit you every time.
That's also not political. That's just fact.
Yeah, it's just you're literally every time you turn on a TV, you've got somebody being mad about something for a whole year.
Also, live TV now is insufferable. This is why I watch Netflix and Hulu.
Oh, I've got YouTube TV.
Watching games, but every commercial is just that person's. It's
the best thing about YouTube TV is that you can skip those commercials, the live TV commercials.
I love that.
They'll show you here's a relaxing bird, or here's a relaxing beachfront. Here's your
zen. Yeah.
It literally says it's enjoy the zen. We'll be back in 10 seconds. It's the worst.
But anyway, I'm with you on that. It's just it sucks. Yeah.
From a podcast perspective, though, I feel also really good about next year.
Me too.
I think now that we got through a crazy summer, both of us,
as always,
we got through a crazy amount of time. We'll get back to pretty regularly being in this room doing stuff.
We're excited about it, and we got some good guests planned. And actually, I met someone today who's going to be a good guest here soon. So I'll report back to you on that. Milwaukee based, but yeah, a lot of fun stuff to come. We'll be doing some live shows. We got a couple ideas up our sleeve about where to go, and I think generally, if you listen to this show and you are someone who wants to talk about what you do, and you've been listening for a while, come on by.
We are always welcome.
If you got friends you think would be good, we are broadening our horizons. We've talked to people who went into their side hustle full throttle, who have failed in it, who have just the story that can tell about entrepreneurship is a really net positive. So
and we're gonna be back on social media a little bit more. Working on getting those clips together. That's my end of things, is when the weather gets cold, that's when I'm like, all right, here we go. But I'm getting better at scheduling things way further in advance. So there's a tool that I use that I can schedule a clip 3 months out, and there's ones I could use. I could schedule a year out, but there's one particular one that makes it really easier, that I'm like, oh, we can make some clips in November and get them ready for January. So come January, there might just be an onslaught of Hustling Sideways clips.
2025, I see you. Get after it.
Exactly. I'm kind of already in planning mode for next year.
2025 sounds like the actual future.
I know.
I don't like that number.
We sound old.
Let's stay in 2024.
But the good news is Jim got his Instagram back too. So he's going to see more of those things.
I did. I'm no longer hacked. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm still hacked.
You just got
I created a new one. Yeah. That was a rough 2019 is when that happened. No, hold on. That was
maybe 2021. I don't know. It's been a little bit since you've actually had a real Instagram. I don't know how you survived.
It's been a couple years, but either way, no, it was 2021. Yeah, it's when I got hacked, and I'm back. What's funny though about being back is I don't use it that much because I'm used to not having it. So, when I am out there now.
Part of your life again.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm up there. I'm ready to roll. I'm back with back in the know in the 411, and I feel good about it. But we got a lot of stuff going on. We're excited, and hopefully you continue to follow along this journey with us and. Talking to people, finding out more about their passions, and having a good time along the way.
Yeah, we should also say, I also would like to say thank you, because Jim had taken on booking in the last couple, within the last 10 episodes.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
And taking on, being able to get some guests in here.
Alan does everything else.
I say on weeks that we didn't have somebody, Jim was there. So thank you for that.
I got you. Anytime, man.
Co-host, he's booking stuff. We've got a full-fledged operation.
Do it live. That's right.
Thank you for listening, for following us on our little our journeys and everything. It's exciting.
Yes.
I I'm excited for the future of Hustling Sideways and the next at least 10 episodes till we make it to a century.
Got to get to a century.
We're going to get to a century. We're going to get beyond that. It'll be great.
It'll be great.
So, in the meantime, we are the Hustling Sideways podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If it's your first time or your 90th time.
That'd be wild.
That would be wild. If we are everywhere that you get your podcast. We are on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn as well. If you want to be a guest on the show, there's plenty of room right here next to Jim. Send us an email. It's hustlingsideways@gmail.com. And Jim, for the 90th time,
keep on hustling.
It's probably more than 90. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.